There's nothing like your favorite rock band rolling around the countryside, killing monsters, and saving the girl. Welcome back to the channel, Book Dragons. I'm so glad you're here. Today I am doing a review for the amazing book, Kings of the Wyld by Eames. Before we get started, make sure that if you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, join my Discord if you want to connect with me and other awesome people, and let's go ahead and talk about the book. I have known about this book for quite a while, and it's been on my list for a long time, but I just, for some reason, I've never gotten around to it. I kept putting it off. I just decided it was time for me to do so, especially one of my good friends, Alyssa. Her channel is Into the Heart Wyld. This is her favorite book. In fact, it's the inspiration for the name of her channel. So I figured, okay, I just got to do this. I've got to see what all the hype is about. And let me tell you guys, before I say anything else about the book, if you just want to know the nitty-gritty, the hype is real. Let's go ahead. We're going to talk a little bit about the world, and I'll get into the characters and things like that. But first I want to tell you a little bit about how this book was sold to me. It was sold to me as 70s and 80s rock bands got tossed into a fantasy story where they were the main heroes of the story. And I'm just like, well, hey, I love 70s and 80s rock, hard rock, metal, stuff like that. You name it. I love stuff like that. I love classic fantasy stories. So I figured, okay, I'm hooked. I'm there for it. Let's give it a try. So in this world, bands roam the countryside, fighting off monsters, protecting communities, and they gain fame and fortune over time as people start to remember their names and remember their legacies, and they get all excited when they see these famous bands and the members of those bands in public, and they just go gaga over them as if they were rock stars. And it's just an awesome way to tell a story, I think. So if you like 70s and 80s rock, hard rock, metal bands, if you like D&D, and you like tongue-in-cheek humor like The Princess Bride and stuff like that, you're going to feel right at home in this book. Especially the D&D, there's lots of familiar D&D references. You will get references to rock bands in the story, but they're a little bit more obscure unless you're really well versed in rock music, especially from the 1970s and 1980s. So it is there, but depending on how much you know about music from that era, you may or may not get some of those references. And then the humor is just absolutely fantastic. Lots of tongue-in-cheek humor, lots of sarcasm, lots of wit. It's just all over the place. So let's go ahead and talk about the plot of the book. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, but I do want to give you kind of a general overview of what the story is about. Clay Cooper is a retired mercenary who belonged to one of the famous mercenary bands named Saga. After he hung up the mantle, he met a woman, they got married, they had a child together, and he's living the family life. He is tracked down by one of his former bandmates named Gabe, who tries to convince Clay to reunite Saga in order to go and rescue his daughter, who has become embroiled in a war in an adjacent kingdom. He doesn't know whether his daughter is alive or dead, but he's planning to go and rescue her anyway, whether or not the band reunites. But he's hoping that he can count on his fellow bandmates to help him fight against this foe and rescue his daughter. all of the bandmates have moved on with their lives. Some have become nobles, some have gotten into bad trouble, and they would have to go and track each of these other members down in order to reunite the band, and that's even if they are willing to reunite the band. So that's the basic plot, and it is a very basic plot, but that's totally okay because it's so fun watching that plot play out and watching all the shenanigans that they get into. The main characters in this story are Clay Cooper, who is also known as Slowhand, Arcandius Moog, who is a wizard, and he's taken up a business concocting different potions with the ultimate goal of hopefully coming up with a cure for the rot, which is a deterioration disease that can be caught by people in the Wyld forest. Ganlon is another one of the characters in the story, and he is just a fantastic character. He's very stoic, he's very no-nonsense. A lot of the time he just doesn't really care, as long as he gets to kill something. But the only time you really have to worry is if you piss him off enough to set down his beer. There's also Matrix Skulldrummer. He is the thief of the group, and he is known for his 2 knives that he named after the women that gave them to him. And then, of course, there's Golden Gabe, who is infamous for his acts of valor, brandishing the mysterious sword known as Velicor. And then Gabe's daughter's name is Rose, and she has unfortunately followed in her father's footsteps, and that is what has gotten her into trouble and why he's going to rescue her. There are a few other characters that we meet along the way as well. There's Lady Jane and the Sparrows, who are known for their highway robberies along the open road while people are traveling, and Lady Jane is just a cracker. She is so fun, and her interactions with Clay Cooper especially are just absolutely hilarious. There's also Larkspur, who is a Deva, which is more or less a human, but with wings. And then there's Lastleaf, who is a Druin, and the Druins are an ancient race with almost godlike qualities. But he's become somewhat disgruntled throughout his life, and he's now assembled a group that are known as the Wyld Horde. And Druins are kind of cool because they're basically humanoid rabbits. They have rabbit ears and everything like that, but they can talk and they have magical abilities, and just a really cool character. I thought Lastleaf was awesome. So what can you expect from this story when you pick it up? So what can you expect from the story? Right off the bat, I need to let you know that there is lots of body humor, especially when it comes to genitalia. So if you love body humor like that, you're gonna feel right at home. There's so many off-the-wall jokes about body parts. It's absolutely hilarious. I had such a blast. But if that's something that offends you, then you know this might not be the book for you. But I laughed so hard, so many times at the humor in this book, especially some of the body humor. It was great. There's epic duels, epic battles, senseless violence, and highway robberies. I mean, if you like all of that stuff like I do, then you're gonna feel right at home in this book. It is so good. So I didn't really have any cons for this book that I can think of. I really didn't. I absolutely and thoroughly enjoyed myself, and as far as my ranking goes, this book goes in my soaring tier. It was an absolutely fantastic read, top quality for me, and I would definitely read it again, and I highly recommend it to anyone. So I wanted to do something a little bit different and share some of the quotes that I pulled from the book as I was reading it on my Kindle. I had so many highlights in this book, guys, and I'm not gonna read all of them to you, but I thought I would read some of them. And so before I do that, I do need to make you aware that this is a spoiler section. If you don't want spoilers, if you haven't read the book, then you may want to step away because these are some quotes directly from the book, but I absolutely loved these quotes, and so that's why I'm sharing them. And if you like this, if you like me sharing quotes from books that I enjoyed, let me know in the comments. That would be awesome. So, giving you a minute to step away because of spoilers. Okay, are you ready, guys? Here we go. I'm going to put on my eyes and I'm going to read some of these to you. And if you follow me on Goodreads, you can find my highlights for this book on my Goodreads profile. I made them all public, so you can do that. So I'm going to read some of these to you. So for this first one, Clay Cooper had just seen a poster on a wall in the town that he's in, and Clay squinted to read the words scrawled beneath: Magic Moog's magnificent phallic phylactery. 0 to hero with just 1 sip. Satisfaction guaranteed. I was talking about body humor, guys. It's plentiful in this book. I laughed so hard when I saw that. He's basically selling potions to help people with erectile dysfunction. And I thought it was fantastic. It was absolutely hilarious. And regarding that, he said, alchemy is a costly hobby, I fear. I barely make ends meet selling my phylactery. Frigid hells, if it wasn't for the limp Dixoconthus, I'd be flat broke. And in this next scene, Clay and some of the other guys are in the bar, and they've just been insulted by another band. And it says, Clay glanced over, afraid Ganlon's temper would boil over, but the warrior was still holding his beer, so that was a good sign. When he sets it down, I'll panic, Clay figured. He tacked on an easy smile, hoping to smooth things over before they escalated further. And then, of course, later on, it escalates anyway. And quite suddenly, the boy was on his feet, sword in hand. I know what an effing eagle sounds like, he screamed, which drew the attention of every table nearby, and in the ensuing silence, Clay heard the quiet but ominous thud of Ganlon setting his beer down on the table. Whoops. And then here's one more that I'll share with you. Clay had just been in a fight, and it says that Clay pushed his body off him and mumbled another apology because, enemy or not, when you hit a man in the nuts with a magic hammer, the least you could say was sorry. So, I mean, it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that, guys, that just, I mean, it makes this book so much fun to read. As I said, the action is great, the battles, the humor, it all comes together to form this absolutely magnificent story. And I can't wait to read more. Bloody Rose is the second book in the series. And these are kind of standalone books, so you can read them independently, but they do tie together if you read them in order. So I'm looking forward to reading Bloody Rose, and then hopefully he finishes out the trilogy soon and we get that third book. So let me know in the comments below, have you read Kings of the Wyld? What did you think of it? Has it been on your list and you've been dragging your heels and now you're ready to read it, finally? Let me know that too. And let me know if you have any other questions about the story or my experience of the story. And that's all I've got to say about Kings of the Wyld, guys. I hope you read it. And whatever you do, if you don't read this book, at least read books. I'll talk to you later.